Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live chat with New York Times and USA Today bestselling author Kathleen Eagle. Today we'll be discussing her book, Never Trust A Cowboy. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
A little bit about Kathleen. She's published more than 40 books, including historical and contemporary, series and single-title novels, earning her nearly every award in the industry, including Romance Writers of America's Rita. Very impressive. So before we begin our questions, I wanted to also let our viewers know that we are giving away a copy of Never Trust a Cowboy and also a mystery bag full of Kathleen's favorite things. So very exciting stuff. Stop by Booktrib after the live chat and enter to win some great reads and even more. So Kathleen, before we go into our viewers' questions, can you tell us a little bit about Never Trust a Cowboy?
Well, the story starts with a guy who's watching a robbery in progress. He's watching some cattle rustlers steal cattle, and he's judging their expertise. He wants to get involved, and you don't really know how he wants to get involved, but he's done it before himself. So he has to get himself a job with the local rancher, and so that he can get involved with this cattle rustling business. And the local rancher that he gets involved with has a daughter, and they get interested in each other. Neither one of them intends to, because he's there on a job and she is trying to stay away from people in general. But that's the setup for the story.
Awesome. Now we have a question from Debbie here, and we talked a little bit about, the types of things you've written before, and she says, "Hi Kathleen, I loved Never Trust a Cowboy, and in fact I enjoy all your romances. Have you ever thought about writing in another genre? Or will it always be romance for you?"
I think there will always be relationships, and there have been. I've actually, probably since I wrote that biography, I've written close to 50 books, or published close to 50 books. But I've been doing it for a long time, so I'm not fast. But I'm steady, and I've written some bigger books that are not so focused on that relationship, but there's always a romantic relationship in my books. When I started writing, I thought I was writing a historical. I wasn't a romance reader. I had no idea I was writing a romance. And when I looked for an agent, he said, "Yeah, romance is really hot now." And I thought, romance? I thought this was, something. I didn't know what I thought it was. But I seem to be a romantic at heart.
It just came naturally. So I have a question for you. Would you call yourself, are you a seat of the pants writer? Do you plan everything out? What's your writing process?
Oh, I'm very much a seat of the pants, which can really get you in trouble. I have to come up with a proposal, but I write from character, and so I come up with a situation like this one. Never Trust a Cowboy started with, my husband is, well, he's still a cowboy. He's done other things, but when we met, he was a cowboy. And he'll see something or hear about something that might make an interesting story. And he was reading about cattle rustling, which is a serious problem. And we did ranch for years. We didn't have any rustling, but so he read a story about what an industry this cattle rustling has become. And when cattle prices are good, you're likely to lose cattle. And so that's how the idea for this story. So I just, I had a situation, and then I start thinking of characters.
That must have been interesting when you met your husband, and you're like, jackpot, I can write about cowboys. That's great.
No, I had no intention of well, Because I always wanted to write a book. But I was in college, went west on a volunteer program. My husband is Lakota Sioux, and
Oh,
I went to a reservation in North and South Dakota, Standing Rock Reservation, and I met him about the second day I was there, and I was hooked.
wow.
I went home and finished college. I'm a sensible woman, but he was an Indian cowboy, and there is no more interesting cowboy than an
Yeah,
Indian cowboy.
that's a great story.
We've been married for a good long time.
That's great. Um, Now Mary wants to know, do you have a favorite part of Never Trust a Cowboy without revealing too much?
I have lots of favorite parts, but one that came to me when my husband and I were putting together some furniture for our granddaughter's room. We have a granddaughter who lives with us, and she's 12, and she wanted a little more grown-up room. So we got furniture from IKEA.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
there's a scene in the book where they're putting together furniture together. And, you know, if you put IKEA furniture together, which is good stuff when
Yeah.
you get it together. But the hero is a cowboy, and he knows how to use his hands in many ways. But he's handy, and the conversation that you just, when you're writing, and as I said, seat of the pants, a conversation starts from a situation, and it's rooted in reality because my husband and I had put this furniture together before. But it was a fun scene to write.
Yeah.
And the dialogue is fun, and every writer, I think that they'll tell you that their fiction is not autobiographical, but you write yourself. You write the people you know are part of your characters, and your own experiences become part of. And a lot of times they're just little scenes like that.
Yeah, little things that you just remember. Now, how was the IKEA furniture construction? Because I have problems every time.
What's fun about that is that I read directions. I go by the book, and my husband is pretty much a seat of the pants
instruction reader.
Instruction, yeah. But he has, one thing about a cowboy is that he is a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
He can do all kinds of things. And if he doesn't have the parts, he'll make them. If he doesn't have, he doesn't need instructions. So the two of us together, I'm reading the instructions, and he's, doing his thing, and that's the way it reads. But we got the furniture together, and it really is nice furniture. It's tricky to get it together.
Yep. Now, speaking of your characters, Janet wants to know, what makes a good hero, and what traits do you make sure to incorporate in your romance novels?
What makes a hero?
What makes a good hero? Everybody's a good hero, right?
I think that he's, the strong, the song. He's got to be strong, and he's got to be, and he does. He has to have strength of character. He has to have, he has to really want something that he can make happen. He has to have a sense of humor. He has to like animals. For me, he has to like animals and children. He has to be a little sassy, a little cocky, but deep down he has to be a protector and a provider. And I don't know if that doesn't sound feminist or what, but I'm a protector and provider too. I think women are, but so are men, and that's what I want in a hero.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Kristen wants to know, what are some of your writing rituals? Do you listen to music? Do you drink tea? Is there anything that you always kind of do when you're writing?
Well, it's coffee in the morning and tea in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I use a laptop, I can sit anywhere, and I do. I'll sit on the couch or and make myself comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to music, but it can't have any lyrics. I listen to
Oh, interesting.
I don't want any words because I
Yeah, that
have
makes
trouble
sense.
with words. And generally, I will go through quickly and do a draft that's pretty sketchy and has a lot
Mm-hmm.
of dialogue. And then my next draft, I'll fill in with scenery and with setting,
Mm-hmm.
and so I used to write, and I still do. If I get stuck, I go back to longhand. I got to have a pencil and paper.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, Julia wants to know, who is your favorite character in your book, if you have one that you kind of gravitate towards?
In Never Trust a Cowboy, it's Delano Fox who is the hero. The hero is almost always my favorite character.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a romance, I'm the heroine,
Mm-hmm.
or the reader is the heroine,
Right.
and the hero is got to sweep me away.
Right.
And I have to say that my husband does inspire a lot about my characters. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like him.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned before that when you first started writing, it was a historical, and you weren't really a romance reader. Has that changed? Are there any authors that you read in the romance genre, or you do kind of just stay away from reading other people's work? What's your take on that?
No, I do read romance.
Mhm.
I'm let's see, Elizabeth Hoyt
Mhm.
recently has
Yeah.
I picked up a book that was a new one and liked it enough so that I went back and got some of her older books.
Oh, nice.
Um, I still love historicals. I love to read,
Mhm.
um, you know, a good historical.
Is there
And
anything
but
anything else that you're reading besides Elizabeth?
one of my favorite writers is Louise Erdrich,
Yeah,
who
I
is a
love her.
Minnesota writer.
Yes.
Um, and she's just a fabulous writer, and she writes about contemporary um, Native American or American
Mhm.
Indian, take your choice, situations, and we have met her, and she is
Oh,
just a
fantastic.
lovely, lovely lady.
Now,
I right now I'm reading a book called Buffalo for the Broken Heart. Buffalo for the Broken Heart. And the author is Dan O'Brien, and it's nonfiction.
mm,
And
huh,
Dan O'Brien is a writer. He's actually a
yeah.
fiction writer, but the book is about his ranch, and he has started raising buffalo in South Dakota. And he's just a
Oh,
wonderful writer. And this does touch some of the theme of the next books that I will be writing, that I am writing for Harlequin. And so, I do read a good deal of nonfiction to get good background.
yeah, absolutely. Now, Louise Erdrich, doesn't she write poetry too? Does she do fiction? I
Yes.
remember. Yeah, I read a couple of her poetry books. I remember reading that I really loved.
Recently, she's written some young adult and some children's books.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, wow. I'm gonna have to check it out. Um,
Yes.
yeah. Bridie has a question. She says, if you could make any hero from literature come to life, who would it be and why?
From literature.
There's a lot.
Well, I really enjoyed Outlander.
Yes.
How has her name just escaped me? But I watched the movie, and I think they did make Jamie come to life. I would have liked to have Jamie come to life, and I think they really did.
I think we all would.
Pretty good. And so that springs to mind.
Yeah. Clark wants to know, do you have a favorite book to movie adaptation?
Well, that would be one. Outlander, I think they did a very good job with. Another one that springs to mind is Lonesome Dove, which was a TV movie.
Yeah.
And that's one of my husband's favorite books. And at first, when we heard that they had made this movie, he said, "I don't want to see it. They'll ruin it. They always ruin it."
Yeah.
That's one of the few. He loves westerns, and that's one of the few that he said, "Yep, they got it right."
Oh, that's fantastic. Now we have a couple of questions coming through, and I was thinking just, I know you said you're a seat of the pants writer, but with like series books, what's the writing process like? How do you keep everything straight? Someone's asking, do you organize? Do you put things in binders? How do you remember every detail, every little character quirk? How do you?
Well, you have to figure. I've tried everything from note cards. That sometimes works, especially if it's a longer book with a lot of characters. But I keep a notebook handy, and if you don't, now with the computer where you can, do searches, but you don't want to spend, forever doing searches. So it's, I always have in the notebook, I'll have a page for each character and make a note when I come up with a detail so that I can go back to it and make sure the eyes are the right color and that kind of thing. And I have to keep notes somewhere on paper.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if, I'm sure this has happened, that an author has been like, oops, his eyes were blue and I wrote that they were brown.
Oh, yes, sure it happens. It happened with an early book of mine. The heroine was wearing, jeans or something, and a couple pages later she was wearing cutoffs, and it slips through. Yeah. The editors, the copy editor is the one who she's supposed to read through the book, and that's what she's supposed to read for. And if she gets interested in the story, she can, miss something, and that happens.
Right. Now, Marilyn has a question. Outside of your writing, what occupation would you turn to if you didn't write, or what do you like to do in your spare time?
Well, what could I turn to? I was a teacher I taught for 17 years. I taught high school and junior high, and that's the most important job in the world, and probably one of the hardest. And I don't think we appreciate teachers and the job that they do. I don't know. I don't know how good. I still hear from students that it was just a really important time in my life. And so I teach writing at the Loft Literary Center in Minneapolis. I teach a course, periodically. It's a 6-week course. So I like to teach, and I do kind of keep a hand in it. Otherwise, I'd be a professional ice skater. I'd like to be able to wear all those costumes.
Triple axel.
And do those, yes. Boy, would I love to fly through the air.
Yeah, I know.
They do.
Now, Louisa wants to know, do you have a favorite children's book, or is there a fairy tale that, since you're a romance writer, do you ever find yourself taking fairy tale tropes, and kind of injecting them into your writing?
Yeah, I do. Beauty and the Beast is one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. And I did write a book that had some Beauty and the Beast elements to it. It was called The Night Remembers. And I just think, and what was funny was that when I proposed it, my agent said, Kathy, this is, I don't see how this is going to fly. This guy lives underground. And
that's funny.
And I just don't see anything romantic about that. So I told my husband, this is what I want to do. And he said exactly the same thing. I don't understand why that would be romantic. This guy lives underground. Because it's Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, it works.
And actually it was one of my, it was my first hardcover, and it was one of my most popular books, I think.
Oh, awesome.
Because it's read by women who understand Beauty and the Beast.
They get it. Absolutely. Now, for Never Trust a Cowboy, we have a nice cover with a cowboy on there and some,
I love the cover.
Yeah, so do you ever choose, anything with the cover? Do you have any influence? Do they pick, a model, or is it usually an illustration? Is it different all the time?
I don't think I've had any... with Harlequin, I think mine have all been illustrations. But you do a cover art worksheet for Harlequin. Actually, I think most publishers use that. A couple of the other publishers that I've written for use some type of worksheet. And you describe a couple of scenes. And that scene did the cowboy. I said, I want a cowboy. Mm-hmm. This is how he should be dressed, and I want a puppy, because who can resist a cowboy and a puppy? Exactly. And I think they nailed it. He's pretty darn good looking, and he's smiling, and and there's that puppy.
Yep. Speaking of the puppy, Julia wants to know: do you have any pets? Excuse me, and do any of them make it into your books? Do you ever?
They almost always. They do. We have horses, which are not like pets.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And they are out in North Dakota. Okay. Our family, our Eagle family, still is there on the reservation where I taught and where my husband is from, and so we have several horses out there, and our nephews and our brothers take care of them. But we have a dog. We rescued. I think she's got a little bit of a mix in her, but she's black lab. Mm-hmm. And she was a year old when we got her, and that's where the in Never Trust a Cowboy, the mm-hmm. dog is just a black dog. Mm-hmm. But I told I put in my worksheet that I wanted one that looked like a black lab puppy, and
aww.
And that's because of Beauty. She's the sweetest dog. I will never look for a purebred dog. I'm sure breeders. I don't want to make an enemy of breeders, but
you're happy with your choice.
Those dogs that you can adopt need a home, and Beauty is one of the best dogs we've ever had.
Awesome.
She listens to me. Nobody else does.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Jared wants to know, what advice do you have for aspiring romance writers?
Aspiring romance writers. Well, I just started writing. I did not have any intention of publishing. I wrote for fun. The first story that I wrote in a notebook with a pencil, and I was keeping it pretty secret that I was doing this for, I was teaching, but
Yeah.
It was summer vacation. And so that's the main thing, is to write. And then if you have if there's a writers group in your area, check it out.
Yeah.
A lot of times they'll offer critiquing, critique groups. As I said, I teach at the Loft Literary Center in Minneapolis. It's a wonderful program, and I teach a course maybe twice a year. It's a 6-week, once a week course, and it's called Book in a Month. Now, you cannot write a book in a month, but you can get a good plan, and you can get some feedback, and that's what you need. I would be careful about, hiring an editor. I've known people who have done that. I would be careful about where make sure that if you get into a program that it's a good program. Yeah. Maybe through a college or as I said, Romance Writers of America is a group that I've belonged to for 30 years or more. And I go to the conference periodically. And there's a local chapter here. There's probably a local chapter of Romance Writers of America in your town or not too far away. So check that out, because nobody understands a writer like other writers.
Another one, absolutely. Great advice. Now, what are you working on next? What's next in the cards for you?
Well, I am working on. It's going to be a 4-book series. I've had this idea kind of spinning around in my brain for a while. After seeing a small town that was for sale on the internet, and I set a lot of my stories in North and South Dakota, and because I like the westerns, I like the cowboys. I thought, what if? And there are a lot of really small, dying towns out there, and there were a couple, near us when we lived on the reservation. And I thought, what if a town put itself up for sale on eBay, and a woman who had was kind of between romances or whatever, decided to buy it just sort of on the spur of the moment, thinking that she would, because she has money. She got a legal settlement. She doesn't really feel good about spending the money, but she thinks maybe I could, this would be a good place for me to go and start over. Yeah. And so the town that she buys, the name of the town is Matrimony. And so the series is called The Road to Matrimony. Cool. And there'll be 4 books.
So you have a lot of stuff to keep you busy. Absolutely.
Yes, I do.
Now we have a question. One last question to wrap things up from Jared again. He says, "Do you have a motto when it comes to writing?"
Well, it's the motto that we all have, and the one and the rule that we break for ourselves so often, and that is writers write. There's no substitute, and it's a lonely job in many ways, and many times you just would do anything other than go to that computer. You go clean the toilets or anything, because it's a hard job. That you're creating something out of nothing. Yeah. But if you get yourself there, you get yourself in front of the computer or the notebook or whatever you write on, and you just get your fingers moving. Exactly. And write crap until the words start flowing. The writers write.
Yeah.
And if you don't write, you're maybe a would-be writer. And it doesn't matter whether you're published or not. You can be a writer and never get published.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you can pretty much publish online without too much problem. But if you want to make a living at it, you really have to study the market and figure out the best way for you to get your material out there in front of readers. And the process isn't over until you have a reader, because the reader finishes it up.
Right.
The reader, you come full circle when you have a reader.
I think every time we ask that question, an author says you have to just sit down and write. But I like that you said, get together with a group, and it is true that it's a lonely process, and so you have your writer community to kind of help you, foster that love, and it's very inspirational.
Yes, you do, and nobody knows writers like other writers. We're strange people, really.
Yeah.
We're pulling stuff out of the air. Notice I use the word air. We're just pulling it out of the clouds. I mean, yes, it comes from us. Yes, it's our experience, our vision, our voice. But you have to look at that blank page or that blank screen and visualize something on it.
Right.
And then put it there.
Fantastic answer. And I just want to thank you again so much for joining us. It was such a nice chat. And I want to tell everybody to stop by Booktrib after this chat and enter to win a copy of Never Trust a Cowboy and a mystery bag full of your favorite things. Thank you so much, Kathleen.
Thank you. It's been so much fun.
Yeah. Take care. Bye, everybody.
You too.
Yeah.